I'm straight, but I'm stuck raising a baby with the hottest guy I've ever seen. I was 23, fresh out of college with a degree in data analytics. Standing at a mere 5'6", I was short according to society standards, but my blonde hair and piercing blue eyes made up for it in the dating market. I was straight, might I add, although most people seem to assume my sexuality based on my size. Very rude. All that was besides the point. So far, I was a normal guy. Why then was I standing in a lawyer's office with my 1-month-old nephew in my arms? The couple made you the sole custodian of Jeremy, the lawyer explained again. He probably thought my shocked expression was because I didn't hear him the first time. I did. But I'm young, I don't have a job, I'm not even married, and her husband hated me, I explained loudly, more to myself than the lawyer. My sister Claire loved me to bits, but her husband Peter was something else entirely. He was disgusted by me. His wife's seemingly gay younger brother. How the hell did he agree to me being the sole custodian? He probably didn't think he'd pass away in a tragic crash with his wife, leaving his only child to the feminine man he hated so much. In my defense, I was raised by my sister and I adopted her personality. So what if I was soft-spoken with extreme OCD? I wasn't gay. I looked down at Jeremy and tickled his chin. His blonde hair, green eyes, and button nose was the perfect combination of my sister and her husband. Of course, I loved him, but I couldn't raise him. I was unemployed, young, and inexperienced. Sir, can't you reach out to Peter's family? Can't they take Jeremy? I pleaded, unable to think of another solution. The lawyer sighed and shook his head while pushing a file over to me. Apparently, Peter had issues with his family. It's either you take him or he goes into the system. I'll call CPS now. As the lawyer's hand hovered over the phone, ready to make that dreaded call to CPS, panic gripped me like a vice. Sure, I might not have been the poster child for responsible adulthood, but I couldn't just toss Jeremy into the jaws of the adoption system. Not after what Claire and I endured growing up. Family sticks together, right? Stop, I blurted out, my voice echoing off the walls of the lawyer's office. But I was not the only one shouting. The door burst open and a stranger strode in, his dark hair a stark contrast against his pale skin. Those piercing green eyes, so much like Peter's, bore into mine. Who the heck is this guy? Before I could react, he snatched Jeremy from my arms, his towering figure looming over me. I scrambled to regain my grip on the baby, but the sudden movement startled Jeremy and he erupted into a chorus of wails. The lawyer, unfazed by the chaos unfolding before him, addressed the intruder. Mr. Harry, you cannot simply take custody of the baby. You're not the legal custodian. What a snobbish name. Mr. Harry, in all his designer-suited glory, flashed a smug grin. He's all I have left of my little brother, and I'll keep him, even if I have to drag this case through every courtroom in California. I squared my shoulders, summoning whatever confidence I had left. Over my dead body, I declared, my voice trembling slightly, I won't let you take him. Mr. Harry's grin widened, a glint of challenge in his emerald eyes. Challenge accepted, he retorted. But I wasn't about to back down. Not when it came to Jeremy. He was the only family I had left, and I'd be damned if I let some pompous jerk waltz in and take him away. Well, wasn't this just peachy? Not only was I stuck with a baby I was wholly unprepared for, but now I'd gotten a rival for custody who looked like he stepped out of a Calvin Klein ad. Talk about adding insult to injury. I squared my shoulders, refusing to back down. Listen here, Mr. Armani. Kidnapping is illegal. I don't know how you met my lawyer, but you can't just snatch a baby. Who the hell are you? His uncle. Oh. Jeremy, bless his heart, picked that moment to let out another ear-splitting wail, as if to underscore the chaos of the situation. The lawyer rubbed his temples, no doubt regretting his career choices. While Mr. Harry looked like he's about 2 seconds away from blowing a gasket, I had my guesses based on the physical similarities, but it was confirmed now. This hot stranger was Peter's biological brother. The lawyer intervened, passing Jeremy back into my arms where he quickly quieted down. "You've agreed to keep him, right?" His question was backed up with an aggressive wink that spoke volumes. Unable to refuse, I glanced from the lawyer to Harry and the baby before grunting, "Yes, I'll keep him." Bloody hell. A week later. Maybe I should have let Harry take Jeremy. His loud wails filled my apartment, and I could see my sleep-deprived reflection in the baby bottle on the sink. All the baby did was eat, sleep, cry, and repeat. With sluggish steps, I went to pick him up from his makeshift cot. "Baby, please stop crying." Unrelenting, Jeremy continued to wail. His diaper was fresh and his belly protruded as evidence of his last bottle. I'd surfed several websites in search of ways to calm him down, but I couldn't find anything. The one thing that worked a little was his pacifier, a blue Captain America pacifier that I gifted Claire during her baby shower. I placed it in Jeremy's mouth and waited for him to calm down. With my free hand, I put necessary items into the baby bag. I had finally decided to go to Claire's house. Avoiding it wasn't a viable option anymore. My house wasn't ready for a baby, but her house was. I definitely couldn't bring myself to live there, but I could bring some stuff over to my place. Jeremy needed a cot and baby items. I had to do this for him. Somehow, I got both of us out of the door in less than 30 minutes. I caught sight of a stack of boxes in front of the unit opposite of mine. Someone is finally moving in. My new neighbor was the least of my problems. Driving with a fussy baby tested the limits of my patience, and to make matters worse, we'd arrived. I parked in front of the quaint blue house surrounded by a white picket fence. "Victor?" I gasped, nearly jumping out of my seat as a woman's voice cut through the noise. Oh my God. It was Claire and Peter's neighbor, a middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair. "Dear, I didn't mean to startle you. I just wanted to offer my condolences." A tiny tear streaked its way down my cheek. Stop crying, I thought to myself. Apparently Jeremy didn't get the memo either, and he joined me in my tear fest. The neighbor pulled back with an awkward smile. "Well then, have a nice day, and tell the gentleman in there to keep it down." "Which gentleman?" My eyes drifted to the wide open front door. Someone was in the house. I ran out in a panic, but stopped at the doorway. The baby was still in the car. I waddled back to the car and pulled him out. "I'm sorry, baby. Uncle Victor isn't used to taking you around yet." I continued my dash into the house, my heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape the mess that was my life. Pictures of Claire and Peter adorned the walls, a painful reminder of what I'd lost. Baby items littered every corner. My eyes scanned the room until they landed on Peter's office. That's where the noise was coming from. With tentative steps, I peeked into the office. Inside, loud music and a strange sight welcomed me. There he was, Harry, looking more disheveled than a stray cat caught in a thunderstorm. "Harry, what are you doing here?" I blurted out, my voice straining over the rock music. He turned to face me, his stubble face a testament to the chaos that we were going through. "Victor," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I had to come. I couldn't stay away." I felt a pang of sympathy for him. After all, we were in this mess together, mourning the loss of our loved ones. Without a word, he crossed the room and reached out for Jeremy, who was babbling in my arms. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of his intentions, but eventually relented and handed over my nephew. Harry cradled Jeremy close to his chest, his eyes welling up with tears. It was a sight that tugged at my heartstrings, reminding me that beneath his tough exterior, he was just as broken as I was. I reached up and gently patted his back, offering whatever comfort I could. "I'm not actually crying. I got sand in my eye," he protested. "Of course," I patted his back, straining to reach the right height. Darn long legs. This moment was interrupted by a loud growling sound from Harry. Did you have breakfast? No, he shrugged, placing a kiss on Jeremy's forehead. Without a second thought, I led him downstairs to the kitchen where I rummaged through the freezer for something to eat. Frozen rice. Typical Claire. I chuckled at the memory. Want to hear a fun fact? I asked, tossing the rice into the microwave. Harry struggled to position Jeremy now that he was sitting, but he still replied, Yeah, hit me. I stretched my hands over the tabletop to help. One hand below his bum, the other behind his neck. You're already a pro, he smiled. My cheeks warmed with a blush. I'm not a pro, I just watched a lot of YouTube for help. What's the fun fact you wanted to tell me? Oh, that! I patted my head at my forgetfulness. Do you know why there are frozen rice baggies in the freezer? Harry shook his head. No, why? Claire hated cooking from scratch, so she would just microwave the rice. I explained this quirk to Harry, and we both laughed. He pointed to the fabric covering on the pot handles. Peter got burnt by a pot handle as a child and has lived in perpetual fear ever since. It was a strange detail, but it brought a smile to my face nonetheless. We settled into a comfortable silence, and I whipped up a plate of egg-fried rice. Jeremy was placed in his day cot, and Harry devoured his food with gusto, offering nods of approval between bites with a pat on my head. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of annoyance at his casual pats. Hey, watch it, I muttered, swatting his hand away. He grinned sheepishly. Sorry, Victor, it's just, you're the perfect height for head patting. I scowled, but couldn't suppress the laughter bubbling up inside me. Harry was a strange mix of irritating and endearing, much like Peter had been. Once we finished eating, I gathered up Jeremy's things, ready to make a hasty exit. But, as I turned to leave, Harry stopped me with a mysterious smile. I'll see you around, Victor, he said cryptically, refusing to meet my gaze. I furrowed my brow in confusion, but before I could question him further, he pulled me into a tight hug. It was a brief moment of connection. I held him close. The next day, I dragged a hand through my hair and swiped the last t-shirt from the pile of clean clothes on my bed, taking it to the closet for a hanger. Then, I carted the empty basket to the laundry room and headed for the kitchen. The dishes were done, the fridge stocked thanks to the last bit of my savings, the entire house was clean, and Jeremy seemed to approve. For the first time in weeks, things felt almost perfect. Not a huge feat. The actual accomplishment had been me sending out job applications. Mondays were a quiet day, so I doubted there would be much of a response until Wednesday, especially at the end of October, when companies rarely hired new staff. Still, my fingers itched to check my mail simply for the distraction, simply to take my mind off the clock. The endless ding of the elevator opening and closing reminded me of my new neighbor. It was moving day. I pulled on a pair of shorts that ended just around mid-thigh. Let's go greet our new neighbor. I kissed Jeremy as he squirmed, then shifted him to the cradle of my arm. With one hand, I picked up a pie I'd gotten from the store and walked out the door. Outside, the pie slipped from my fingers, plopping to the ground. Ugh, I groaned. I'll get it, a deep, rugged voice sounded from behind me. Then came the thuds of boots on the floor. I stood, ready to smile and introduce myself, but the second I spotted the man walking my way, my brain scrambled. Harry? At your service, he retorted with a cocky smile. I'm guessing this pie is for me? I looked at the open door of the unit next to mine, to Harry, who leaned down to place a kiss on Jeremy's forehead. His scent washed over me. Cedarwood and pine. I curled my toes, holding back the warm feeling in my belly. Why was I acting like this? So, you're my new neighbor, I interrogated, realizing that he came with hidden intentions. You're right. I will not give up custody of Jeremy, I fired indignantly, cradling Jeremy to my chest. Oh, I don't want that anymore, Harry chuckled, lifting his head from Jeremy's. This motion brought us face to face, eye to eye. Our breaths mingled and my lips tingled. What do you want now? To be close to you and Jeremy. We only have each other. It makes sense for us to be close. He was making a lot of sense. If I landed any of the jobs I applied for, I would need an extra pair of hands. What better hands than family? What do you do for work? I'm a financial advisor. I work from home. I bit my lip, wondering if I would regret my decision. Will you be able to look after Jeremy during the day? Definitely. Okay, I'll get you another pie then. Harry finally took a step back. I'll be waiting. A few days later. By Wednesday, one of the jobs I applied for got back to me. I could start as soon as possible. I took it personally. I needed money as soon as possible too. Rent, food, utilities, all of these needed to be paid. As Claire's next of kin, a fair share of her assets came to me legally, but I couldn't bring myself to touch it. Jeremy would start school in a few years, and all that money belonged to him, not me. I leeched off Claire all my life. It was my time to give back in my own little way. I dropped Jeremy off at Harry's with a few instructions here and there before going to work. Data Analyst Intern, my new title at JH Financials. First days sucked. Mine sucked harder than a high-power vacuum cleaner. Turns out that I wasn't the only intern hire. We were two. And at the end of 3-month probation, only one of us would be hired permanently. My opponent came in the form of a hazel-eyed brunette named Dave, with a height advantage of 6 foot. He unsurprisingly towered over me. You're the pity hire. I heard your sister passed away recently. Dave smiled and looked very sinister, arranging his side of the table. I kept my head down, refusing to grace him with a reply, although I was crazy curious. How did he know about my sister? Regardless, I got into work mode, reviewing the files given to us. Mr. Oakley will be expecting this before the close of work. Please work on your part, I advised, noticing his still frame from the corner of my eye. Dave scowled, but pulled out the files. We continued to work in silence until the close of work. My palms itched with excitement. I missed home. I missed Jeremy. I just wanted to hug and kiss his soft skin. My walk to the car turned into a fast drive back home. I tapped my foot impatiently in the elevator. I let in a breath of relief as the elevator doors dinged open. My sigh of relief soon morphed into dread as a shriek carried through the entire floor. I jumped out of the elevator and scurried towards Harry's apartment. His door opened without resistance. He didn't even lock the door. What if I was an intruder? Inside the living room was shirtless Harry shaking a milk bottle. Jeremy's cries were coming from the guest room. What did you do to him? I yelled, rushing for his diaper bag. Blue passy. He needs his pacifier. I just found it when Harry came striding down the hallway, passing the kitchen for the guest bedroom. He emerged moments later with Jeremy in his arms. I can take him, I said. He needs his passy. He needs his bottle, actually. He stole the passy from my hand regardless and walked to the couch, settling down with the baby. Oh, that's why he was crying. Did he just wake up from a nap? Yeah. I curled up on the other end of the couch, tucking my tired legs beneath me. Jeremy went quiet immediately. The nipple of the bottle disappeared between his tiny lips. He was just hungry. Why did I automatically assume the worst of Harry? To be honest, Harry was also trying his best. I leaned my head against my clenched fist for support and watched them. This was a good day, I whispered. Top 5. Harry gave me a sarcastic glance. Yelling at me made you that happy? No, I protested weakly. Not that. I got a job. Jeremy is happy. I'm finally finding a new balance. After what happened, I thought life would never feel normal again. Harry went quiet, frowning at my words. Me too. Anyways, tell me about your top 5. I closed my eyes, as if reliving the moment again. The day Claire came to pick me up from the orphanage. The orphanage? Harry asked, shocked. Yep, I nodded. Peter didn't tell you? Claire and I lost our parents very young, so we spent our childhood in the system. Peter and I, Harry paused, chasing his words carefully. We had a complicated relationship. I can tell. Harry rolled his eyes and gently bounced Jeremy on his knees to aid digestion. His exposed muscles flexed with each bounce and my lips went dry. Claire got out first? Yep, the orphanage lets you go when you turn 18. She worked tooth and nail to afford a life for me. Just when I thought she'd forgotten about me, she returned. Hey, don't cry, he glanced down at Jeremy. What about the other days in your top 5? My second best day was the day I graduated from college. I partied hard with friends, I had plans to get a really good job and spend all my money on Claire. The memory of that night wasn't as bright as it had been. I hadn't spoken to any of those friends in months. We drifted apart, each of us busy with fledgling careers, friends who weren't really friends. I still like their photos on Instagram. They sent the occasional text to check in, but our lives had gone in different directions. It must be nice having parents to fall back on for comfort, I snidely commented, unable to hold back my bitterness. Harry laughed loudly, green eyes wrinkling at the sides. Peter really didn't say much about me, did he? Not exactly. Jeremy babbled softly, arms tilting towards me. He wanted me to hold him. Harry slapped his bum softly with a betrayed frown. After all the good times we shared. Finally, I whispered, pulling Jeremy to my chest. It felt like home. I missed you, baby. He missed you too. Harry finally pulled a shirt over his deliciously naked torso. My relationship with my parents is complicated. I came out to them when I turned 18, and they disowned me. My jaw fell open as I interrupted. What? You're gay? I've had more than a decade to reconsider. I'm pretty sure I'm gay, but my parents couldn't accept it. They disowned me, their picture-perfect son. Perfect is a strong word, I scowled, annoyed by his narcissism. He patted my head in response, taking a seat next to me again. Peter hated me for letting them down. They went harder on him because I failed them. They wanted to ensure that nothing went wrong with the second one. Wow, I'm sorry, I apologized. I never had to deal with parental judgment, and Claire was accepting. She would have accepted me even if I was a worm. No wonder Peter hated me. Harry raised an eyebrow in disbelief. He did? Why? I'm not the most manly man in the world, and he could have $1 million that I'm into men. Excuse me? Harry queried, confused by my metaphor. Jeremy's eyes were starting to close. He was sleepy. I shifted him to my shoulder, tapping his back in rhythmic motions. I'm as feminine as they come. That's probably why Peter didn't like me. Harry's mouth rounded into an O of realization. It's fine. I like you. I coughed and spluttered. Excuse you? Put Jeremy to bed and get some rest. I'll make you dinner. I walked out of Harry's apartment on stiff legs. What did he mean by the sudden but stupid confession? 2 weeks later. As I trudged down the hallway of JH Financials, my shoes squeaking with every step, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Today was the day Dave would get what he wanted. A chance to see me fall flat on my face in front of the higher-ups, and boy was he relishing in it. But let me back up a bit. Dave and I, we weren't exactly best buddies. He had this knack for getting under my skin like a pesky mosquito buzzing around on a hot summer night. And the worst part, according to office gossip, he had some sort of connection to the CEO, which meant I had to tread carefully. So, when Mr. Oakley summoned both of us to his office, I knew I was in for a rough ride. And boy was I right. Turns out, half of the files were submitted had been analyzed wrong. Now, I'm no Sherlock Holmes, but I sure as heck knew I wasn't the one responsible for those blunders. But Dave, he was quick to throw me under the bus, grinning like a Cheshire cat the whole time. The manager's scolding felt like daggers to my already bruised ego. I wanted to defend myself, to shout from the rooftops that it wasn't my fault, but the words caught in my throat, choked by the weight of his disappointment. You're both new hires, but the quality of your work is vastly different, he scolded. As I stumbled out of Mr. Oakley's office, tail tucked firmly between my legs, Dave sauntered up with that smug grin plastered on his face. "Tough break, Victor. Looks like your days here are numbered." I clenched my fist, fighting the urge to punch that grin right off his face. Instead, I plastered on a fake smile and muttered, "Karma is a real witch, and it'll sock you right in the jaw." With a heavy heart, I trudged back home, my shoulders slumped with defeat. But as I fumbled with the lock to my apartment, a voice called out from the other side, "Hey Victor, come in, dinner's ready." I hesitated for a moment, torn between wallowing in self-pity and seeking solace in Harry's company. For the past weeks, he'd been cooking me dinner to fatten me up in his own words. In the end, my growling stomach made the decision for me, and I found myself shuffling into his apartment like a lost puppy. Harry was at the stove, stirring something in a pot that smelled heavenly. He looked up when he saw me, a concerned frown marring his handsome features. "Hey Victor, rough day?" I let out a humorless chuckle, collapsing into a chair at the kitchen table. "You could say that. Turns out Dave's been playing dirty, trying to get me kicked out of the company." Harry's eyes flashed with anger, his jaw clenching in a way that made my heart skip a beat. "That son of a gun. Don't worry, Victor, he won't bother you again." I felt a rush of warmth spread through me at his words, a sense of comfort washing over me like a warm blanket on a cold winter's night. And then, before I could stop myself, I leaned up on my tippy toes and pressed my lips to his. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of our breath mingling, the taste of him on my lips. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, it was over. Harry pulled away, his eyes wide with shock. Then, to my surprise, he smiled. A genuine, heart-stopping smile that made my stomach flip-flop like a fish out of water. "Dinner's ready," he said, gesturing towards the table. I kissed him. I actually kissed him. Did I like him? Peter's $1 million would have multiplied if he had placed that bet, I muttered, referencing the joke I made earlier about his suspicions. We settled at the table, the aroma of his cooking filling the air like a soothing balm. I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope blossoming inside me. Maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay after all. 3 months later, Harry and I had become friends that kissed often. At his place, at mine, in the kitchen, while he cooked, in the elevator after grocery shopping. It sent thrills through me, but it scared me at the same time. I wasn't sure if I liked him or if I just turned him into a solid rock of some sorts. There was no label, we just enjoyed each other's company. On a brighter note, Jeremy started crawling. Not full-on crawling, but he was getting into form. Harry's gallery was stocked full of pictures of Jeremy doing the bare minimum. His gallery also included photos of me. I giggled at the thought, trying to release some tension. Today marked the end of my internship, and the final decision would be made today. Dave had tried to screw me over with little tricks, but I was a step ahead. Also, he never tried something as major as last time. Dave was oddly on point. He never tried crazy stuff again, but he still gave me the stink eye, just like he was giving me now as we waited for Mr. Oakley. I hope you've started looking for other jobs, he sneered. I folded my hands in front of me. Nope, why would I? Good morning, gentlemen, Mr. Oakley greeted with a chirpy smile. I straightened my back instinctively. Good morning, sir. I had a talk with HR and we've made a decision. The person that'll be retained for the data analyst position is... My breath caught in my throat. He gave a warm smile. Victor. What? Dave exclaimed, eyeballs widening with shock. Why is it him? The manager's smile fell off as he leaned back into his chair. Dave, do you think I'm stupid? Sir, of course not. I stifled a chuckle. This isn't high school, and your petty games won't work here. You trying to discredit your coworker won't work either, Mr. Oakley pointed out sternly. He wasn't buying Dave's bullshit. Realizing his position, Dave apologized. I'm sorry, sir. I don't need your apology. Clear your desk. Dave and I exited the office after that order. I wanted to arrange my stuff better with the now free space on the desk, I sauntered up to Dave with the same grin he gave me 3 months ago. "Tough break, Dave. Looks like your days here are numbered. To 0. "Buzz off," he growled, ears flaming red. I giggled and moved my stack of files to the middle of the table. I narrowly avoided getting hit by the rope of his lanyard. "Careful, Tiger. Watch the door on your way out." Dave didn't grace me with a response. Instead, he stormed out. Mr. Oakley deserves some appreciation, so I straightened my shirt and headed back to his office. I stopped in my tracks at his doorway as I heard a familiar name. "Don't worry, Mr. Harry. Nobody will bully him. He belongs to the boss after all," Mr. Oakley chuckled politely. I wasn't stupid. It could only be one Harry. To hell with his financial advisor bullshit. He owned JH. Without caring about work hours, I stormed back to the apartment. I felt betrayed. It was my fault, to be honest. I barely knew him, yet I trusted him blindly. I stepped onto our floor, the 3rd floor. Each time I stepped out here for the past few weeks, I felt at home. I knew the moment I touched my door, Harry would hear and ask me to come over for dinner. His apartment would smell like spices and baby powder, and I'd totally lose all my tension on his couch. But now, I stood in front of those same doors and my ears buzzed with anger. I rested my hand on the doorknob to calm myself down, but the door squeaked open immediately. He didn't even lock the door as usual. I knew him, but at the same time, apparently, I didn't know him at all. Again, as I walked in, I could hear the strains of Harry talking over the phone. Was it still Mr. Oakley? "That amount is insane. Are you even confident I can take custody of Jeremy?" Harry asked, arranging slices of cheese over a semi-cooked lasagna. Baby toys were scattered at his feet, and a pink apron covered his naked torso. He looked warm, but his words were cold. "How dare you!" I screamed, shocked by the pitch of my voice. Harry froze, dropping his phone right into the lasagna pan. "Babe, you're home early." I rolled my eyes. That's what he had to say? "You're trying to take Jeremy? Where is he?" I started searching frantically. "Is he in his room?" "Hey, calm down, it's not what you think." I evaded his attempts to pull me into a hug. "Then what is it?" Harry sighed, running a hand through his hair, leaving streaks of tomato sauce behind. "Look, Victor, let me explain." I crossed my arms over my chest, my heart pounding in my ears. "Explain what? That you're trying to take Jeremy away from me?" Harry's expression softened, his eyes pleading with me to understand. "It's not like that, Victor, I promise." "Then what is it like?" I demanded, my voice cracking with emotion. "Why were you talking about custody, and who were you talking to?" Harry took a step closer, his hands held up in a gesture of surrender. "I was talking to my lawyer about the inheritance." I blinked, confusion clouding my mind. "The inheritance?" Harry nodded, his gaze never leaving mine. "Your sister's inheritance. Jeremy's inheritance." I felt like the ground had gotten pulled out from under me, leaving me floating in a sea of uncertainty. "What does that have to do with custody?" Harry took a deep breath, his shoulders sagging with the weight of his words. "Victor, I'm not trying to take Jeremy away from you. I would never do that." "Then why were you talking about custody?" I pressed, my voice trembling with fear. "It's a lawyer I tried to hire a few months ago, but he was booked and busy," Harry said softly, his eyes pleading with me to understand. "His schedule is open now, and he wanted to know if I'm still interested." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. Was he interested? I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me, leaving me gasping for air. "You still want to take me to court?" Harry shook his head, almost disgusted by the accusation. "Of course not. Worst case scenario, we'll get married and we'll adopt him." I felt a tear slip down my cheek, hot and wet against my skin. "Married? Adoption? Why?" "Because I love him, Victor," Harry said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And he's my family. You're my family, and I love you too." I blinked, disbelief washing over me like a tidal wave. Family was a concept that only applied to Claire and me. "You love me?" Harry nodded, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Yes, I love you, Victor. I love you more than anything in this world. With you, I feel accepted. I feel loved. I feel home. I cautioned my stupid heart that threatened to fly out of my chest and into Harry's chiseled arms. I still had a bone to pick with him. That's great and all, but can you explain to home why you lied about your job? Are you the reason I got the job at JH? Harry placed the lasagna into the oven and turned to me. Babe. I took several steps back. Don't call me that. The only involvement I had in your employment was ensuring Dave got what he deserved. I didn't even know you were working for JH until you mentioned it randomly. Harry was probably telling the truth. He rarely went into the office in the first place. The ball in my stomach loosened and I relented. About the job, please don't get involved again. Ever, I sternly insisted, pointing my finger at his nose. He raised his hands up in surrender. I swear. And about Jeremy, let's see how it goes. We're just starting out as a couple and you didn't even ask me out. I don't even know if we're dating. Adopting him is a long journey. I analyzed, pointing out the fact that we weren't even dating. Harry nodded in understanding but paused at my statement about dating. Wait, we weren't dating all this while? Of course not, I hissed, flabbergasted. You can't skip due process just because I'm a man. I want the flowers and candles too. I'm sorry I skipped that part, Harry whispered, placing a warm kiss on my lips. His teeth lightly grazed my tongue as he pulled me closer and I went pliant in his arms. He kept secrets, but I was glad he was still my Harry. Everything was fine as long as he remained here with me, with us. Our moment was interrupted by a familiar shriek from the guest room turned nursery. Harry pulled back, eyes hooded with desire. I'll get him. You can take a shower and get changed. I placed a final kiss on his lips before he ran down the hallway. I'm coming, Jerry. I'm coming. Before disappearing into the hallway, he turned back. I'll give you everything you want, as long as it's not you leaving me. I'll give you even the moon. I rolled my eyes at his childish promises, but my heart pounded crazily at his words, and my belly erupted with a crowd of butterflies. Stupid man, it's not like I'll ask for the moon. I'll settle for a few stars. 6 months later. Harry was a man of his words. I got the flowers and the candles along with a crowd of cheering onlookers that had me blushing. This idiot chose to have the proposal in a glass-walled restaurant. I found my pictures on several blogs the next day. He was smug about it and it annoyed me. I even got teased at work, but that was 5 months ago. Now, I found my new normal again. Change was annoyingly constant, and Jeremy was the perfect evidence. The crawling baby was turning 1 today. I bounced him on my knee, adjusting the bow tie on his neck even though I couldn't see it. Harry had placed a blindfold over my eyes under the guise of a birthday surprise. It's not even my birthday, I protested. That doesn't mean you won't get a surprise. Harry's soft lips met mine, and I returned it for a mere second before pulling back. Not in front of the child. Finally, the car stopped, and he helped me out. I hoisted Jeremy into my arms, and he started to babble. House. Haas? I mumbled after him, trying to guess what he was seeing. Are you ready? Harry asked. Moving to my back, his hands deftly moved around the blindfold. It wasn't his first time taking one off of me, although the circumstances were vastly different. I nodded to show agreement. Yep, take it off. The blindfold fell off and I blinked a couple of times to adjust my corneas to the light. With each blink, the view of the blue house and white picket fence came into view. Claire and Peter's house. My heart dropped and my face went pale. No. Harry stood behind me, holding me in place. The only reason Peter and Claire bought this house is because they wanted Jeremy to be raised here. The classic American dream house. He was right. It was all Claire wished for when we lived in the orphanage. A blue house, square windows, a nice backyard, big lawn, and a white picket fence. We couldn't have that, so she built her dream for Jeremy. You're such a jerk for setting this up behind my back, I scolded, but the smile on my lips said otherwise. Living here would reopen old wounds, but it would also help with the healing. Grief was just love with nowhere to go. Thankfully, Claire left me, Jeremy, and in turn, Harry. My love had an outlet. "Yazy!" Jeremy babbled, pointing at a patch of daisies along the fence. I turned to Harry. "Your picture books aren't that useless after all." "I told you so," Harry retorted smugly and placed Jeremy on the ground. With shaky steps, Jeremy walked over to the daisies and grabbed a handful. I wasn't surprised by his grip. Baby grip strength was crazy strong. Ask the bald patch on Harry's nape. Like I expected also, Jeremy delivered the fistful of daisies to his tiny mouth. Both of us lunged over in horror. No! Contact with Harry's parents had been minimal the past year. Efforts to get them to be cordial to Harry and Jeremy only worsened when they found out about our relationship. I suspected that the distance would become permanent, but that was okay too. We didn't need that family. We were building our own, and I'd be overprotective every step of the way, over Jeremy and definitely over Harry. The end. Can you start a relationship based on mutual grief? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.